All right, everybody, welcome to Frayer Models as a vehicle for acquiring and using academic vocabulary for English learners. This is actually the very last presentation in my fall series for 2020. At the end of the session, I usually promote my upcoming sessions, but they're being calendared and approved, so they're not in the system. So I can't promote sessions that do not exist. However, once those are live, I will go ahead and send those out. If you found this to be worth your while, you may find some of the spring ones as well. There are a bunch of sessions that I offered earlier in the fall that you may have missed, and I will actually be offering those again. So I'm kind of burying the lead though. You will find that information at the close of our presentation today. So thank you for those of you that are returning. I saw a lot of familiar faces. If you are with me for the first time, my name is Gabriel Verone. I am an instructional content coach at Region 11. Been there over a year now, and I am part of the English Learner Support Team. This is my lovely family. My wife April is a registered nurse. My son, this picture is a couple years old. My son Malachi is 13. He's now taller than I am. My son Zachary is 8. Zachary and I love Harry Potter. We read all the books throughout this, starting in January, finished up in August. We're now reading Wings of Fire together, so that's fun. And I also work part-time with preteens at Southcliff Church in Fort Worth. All right, so here's our agenda for today. We are going to explore the Frayer model as a tool for acquiring academic vocabulary for English learners, but obviously for all students that are in your class or in your setting. We're going to explore how and when to use the Frayer model during instruction, and we're going to explore and allow you to practice using the Frayer model in a variety of subjects, including language arts, math, and science, right? It's a versatile tool, but you're going to want to use it slightly differently and with slightly different categories, depending on the kinds of vocabulary you plan on exposing your students to, and depending on the context and the time and things like that. And we'll get into some of those specifics, okay? All right. So let's watch a very brief, I think it's no more than 2 minutes, video from the teacher toolkit. Now, I know that we have people in a variety of contexts. We have some secondary, some middle school, some elementary, but this is relevant regardless of your grade level because it's really just a high level overview. All right. You know what? I did not click the share computer sound. That's on me. So let me redo that. Here we go. Otherwise, you'll hear nothing. And away we go.
The Frayer model is a classic, I think, well-known vocabulary tool used as a graphic organizer.
I have it already printed out for you. You don't have to draw it on your own. You have 4 squares with a word inside.
It's set up as 4 squares. You can place the vocabulary term or important concept in the center, and then they have 4 things that they have to do with that word. Typically, one of them is provide a definition that can be given by the teacher or sought out in a book. The other options are to use it in a sentence, so having to put it into their own words and use that vocabulary term in a sentence. Having a picture, so again, having the students draw their representation of that word. Providing examples of that word, also providing non-examples, or even having them describe characteristics of that vocabulary term.
So these are the examples. They can either be, so when it's 2 letters, one is coming from the mother, one is coming from the father.
I like the Frayer model because it takes vocabulary one step farther. It's not just writing a definition or hearing it in one ear and out the other. It requires them to do something with the term or the concept and put it, do the work in their own way. The students like the Frayer model as a vocabulary tool because it's a little bit more exciting than just copying down, what the teacher said or copying down notes. And it allows them to kind of express their creativity using it as a sentence and drawing their own representation.
All right, I'm going to escape so that I can go back. There we go. I did see that one of the participants was unable to hear the audio. Did anyone else have that issue? Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't remember who that was. If that continues to happen, because there is one other video, you may want to exit the meeting and jump back in because sometimes that, for some reason, Zoom will just do that. If you can hear me, then it's probably not your overall settings. It's probably just one of the vagaries of logging in. Okay, all right. So let's continue. Nope. There we go. All right. Now, I'm going to drop, you can scan the QR code, but I'm also going to drop the bit.lys into the chat for you. In order to do that, I'll have to stop screen sharing. But what you're going to see is an exemplar, and there's actually more than one, from the teacher toolkit. And then I have also created for you an editable, I know that sounds weird, able to be edited version of the Frayer model that has two different versions of it. You'll be able to make your own copy, right? You do need to be signed into Google, okay? And I did test this. I sent it to my son and my wife, and they were both able to open it on their own individual accounts. So it should work. But if you're not signed into Google, or if you're in one of the districts that has like Byzantine firewalls, right? Like, then you may not be able to open it. If that is the case, let me know. I can always email it to you. But what that'll allow is that if you are doing, you know, a hybrid version, or you're doing online instruction, you can share this with students. It's in Google Slides, and you can have them make their own copies as well. They can also work collaboratively to do that digitally. And even if you're doing it in person and you'd rather have them do it on a device, that is available to you. All right. So like I said, you can scan the QR codes, or give me a moment. I'm going to drop those into the chat for you. Okay. Let's escape here. It's always terrible when you're trying to drop this stuff because you feel like people are waiting on you. And some people, not me, I'm just saying some people in general, are uncomfortable with the silence. So they feel the need to fill it with nonstop talking. Obviously, I wouldn't do that. That's annoying, right? All right, why did okay. Yes, Nikki, that is a great question. I always send a follow-up email she asked if the copy and the presentation will be available. Tomorrow, I will send you a follow-up email with a PDF version of the presentation, the recording link, and a link to all of the documents, okay? So you will have all of that. I don't expect you to keep track of it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That, like, it's been a long day. You worked all day. I get that. Okay, so go ahead and open those up. If you cannot, please let me know, all right? Because we are going to be using the Frayer model collaboratively together when I put you into some breakout rooms in just a bit. So you're going to want to have those open, okay? If you're having trouble, don't worry, because you can still collaborate with the people in your group. Someone else will just have to share their screen. Okay, so we're going to practice right now, okay? I assume that most of you, or many of you, have seen a Frayer model in the past, right? But you saw an example of what the Frayer model is, okay? You have some Frayer models that you can work with. And so you're going to fill out a Frayer model about a Frayer model, okay? It's very meta, all right? It's kind of like the, any of you seen the Animaniacs reboot on Hulu, where it's very meta? They do a lot of pop culture stuff. They even, no, I'm seeing like total blank stares. Amy's, okay, there's Amy. She's like, anyway. And Tal's like, Gabriel, we love you. We don't know what you're talking about. So what you're going to do is I'm going to put you into a breakout room. You're going to use one of your editable Frayer models, choose one person to share their screen. And in the center, I want you to write Frayer model, right? Now you'll notice there's two different kinds. I'm going to let your group choose which one you want. Do you want the top one that has picture, symbol, or graphic, word used in a sentence, definition? Again, you don't have to put two definitions. I just like, sometimes people want to provide a dictionary definition, right? Or the formal academic definition. And then some people also want children to be able to paraphrase it in their own words. And then synonyms and antonyms. Or you can use the picture, symbol, graphic, characteristics, a definition, again, your choice, a formal definition or an informal one provided by students, and then examples and non-examples. So what I want you to do is, let me get out of here real quick. You're going to go into your Frayer model. One of you is going to share your screen. And look, you're just going to go in here and put Frayer model, right? Then you're going to define together. One person's going to type, but you guys are going to talk, right? A Frayer model is, what is it, right? Use it in a sentence. Give me a picture, a symbol, or a graphic, right? You could literally just take a screenshot, pop it in there. and then give me either a synonym of a Frayer model or examples, right? Maybe a synonym might be a graphic organizer, right? And you can totally use that one, that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna give you about 4 minutes to do that. I realize that's not a lot of time, but we only have an hour together. Does everyone understand what it is that we're doing? If there's any questions, please let me know. In just a moment, I'm gonna stop my share because I have to do that in order to set up the breakout rooms. I'm going to do 4 rooms, so there'll be 3 to 4 people in each room. One person share their screen. You guys fill that out together, and we'll debrief when we get back. If there's any questions, let me know. You should see an invitation to a breakout room. If you do not, please let me know. I'm going to pause the recording. All right, welcome back, everybody. So you may not have been able to finish, and that is perfectly okay. I just wanted you, a lot of times, I'm a big advocate of the Frayer model. If you've been in some of my other sessions, I've talked about it before, right? It's not the first time. I may even have shared with you the editable Frayer model. But a lot of times we give those to kids, but we haven't ever actually interacted with it as a learner. So if I can get a couple people either to unmute themselves or to put it in the chat, okay? How did it feel as a participant? What was your experience, right? And as a teacher, looking at it from that lens, if you have not used it very much in the past, what do you think would be maybe some ways that you could use it? And what are some of the advantages of using it with your English learners in your context? So how did it feel to use it as a participant? And then how might you use it with your own students in your everyday practice?
I'm not doing that.
You're frozen. Can you hear me?
Did someone unmute themselves?
I did.
Hold on one second. Time out. I'm sorry. My connection must be a little slow. Yeah, it's telling me it's unstable. That's not good. So do you want to drop in the chat who unmuted themselves so I can call on you in order? Hopefully you hear me. Amy, thank you. Go right ahead.
So we did, I mean, this was kind of an easier one to do. I like the fact that I've never seen one that has characteristics before. I taught science for 5 years, and I always struggled with the non-example. I hated that. And so, and as a teacher, you know, we were given the Frayer model and I thought I had to use it as is, but I didn't care. I scratched it out and and I wanted examples. I'm like, tell me more about it. I don't want to know what it's not. I want to know if you know what it is. And so, but this one I thought was pretty easy. We did skip the non-exam. Well, no, we didn't actually. This one, we just said that, writing definitions in your journal, just the boring regular way, was the non-example.
Okay.
So, but the characteristics I think was really a good one.
I like it. And I think you're right, because especially if you're doing something, say you're defining terms, you're defining three-dimensional figures, right? You're talking about specific types of equations, right? That's a really great place to do that. And I think too, it just depends on what you want to use it for and what you're trying to get across to students, right? So really, the key there is for them to explore words a little more in depth. And the categories that you use to do that are not wrong, right? You choose the categories because you're the one setting the objectives. Okay, Lizzie, go ahead. You also put your name in the chat.
I like that it can be a teacher-led activity for your maybe lower learners, or for example, I teach 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So they're not quite there yet, but also for our older kids who maybe, if that's a small group where you're pulling in some of your SPED kids, or your newcomers that have very, very little English, that you can have kids work on that as a teacher-led activity, as a we do, and then go back to their table and maybe as an I do, tweak it on their own.
Is there anything, thank you so much, Lizzie. Is there anything wrong with leading it and having children simply respond orally? Is that wrong? No, right? like Elizabeth said, is it Lizzie or you prefer Lizzie, right? That's what you put in the chat. Okay, just making sure. I don't want to, because it says Elizabeth. I don't want to be like, you know, like I'm your totes bestie, right? Like we're gonna braid each other's hair tonight because we're not, right? I don't got enough. Okay, so oral language is the rehearsal for written language, right? And so either, hey bud, she's like, get out of here, kid. Hello. So children can't write what they can't say, right? And so start orally and build up from there. Okay, and then Ritu, I'm gonna let you go ahead and close us out and we're gonna move on.
Yes, I've taught English language learners for a very long time. And I think it really, because they're learning a new language, they're learning content language. Actually, they do a double roller coaster. They're learning a new language and they're learning content in that new language. So I think it's very critical that they know a non-example with an
Oh, I
example.
think I'm frozen again, aren't I?
Yes, I think you are.
Well, that's unfortunate.
No, now you're not. So I think an example definitely is important, but I think a non-example makes them think critically. What can it not be? And especially for English language learners, when they are developing the language, English language and the content language that they're learning. And so I think it's a great model. I use it consistently with my math and science instruction. Yeah.
I love it. All right, well, let's continue on. So we talked about our first objective, right? Basically, what is the Frayer model, right? What are the dimensions? What is it for? Okay, that's the wrong screen. It doesn't help if you present the wrong thing. All right, so let's move on to our second objective, and that is how and when should you use the Frayer model, okay? So here's the steps, okay? Obviously, you need to select the key vocabulary. Children cannot fill out a Frayer model on 40 words, right? Let alone 10. My recommendation is if you're doing a unit that stretches over time, you know, 10, 12 words that you're gonna slowly roll out that are the key concepts that provide an outline, right, for what you're trying to study over a period of time. If it's one lesson, I would do no more than 3 to 5. Really, I think 3 is probably, you know what I mean? And again, if they're relatively easy words, but that's up to y'all, okay? You're gonna obviously provide the graphic organizer, either a physical copy or the digital copy. You wanna model the process for them, right? When you're doing your gradual release, where you do the teacher I do, right? You wanna maybe define 1 or 2 of those terms, allow the students to give input, but you're gonna lead that process primarily for modeling purposes, right? Then you want to have the we do where students work collaboratively like I had you do. And then you want to give them an opportunity, maybe not to fill out the whole graphic organizer, but maybe to at least do 1 or 2 of the dimensions, to do some kind of extension, okay? Then you want to assign pairs or student groups so that students can collaborate, because the beautiful thing about a Frayer model is that you can have heterogeneous groups of mixed level students working collaboratively to discuss and to write about new words. And as that discussion and as that writing occurs, right, it deepens their understanding, okay? You wanna have a sharing of ideas like we did, some kind of a debrief, all right? Then use the Frayer model as a study help, right? Use the Frayer model as a way for students to refer back to words and content previously studied. If you sat in on my session on interactive word walls, right, a Frayer model is a really great way to start building an interactive word wall where students define terms, and then those terms are grouped together according to standards, right, or according to topic. And then the students can use that, right, to interact with that content, okay? And then lastly, you can make, and again, this is not an extensive or exhaustive list of optional extensions, right? But you can have students describe their rationale for examples and non-examples, or why did you list those characteristics? They can explain that orally or in writing. And then you can also, if you're doing, say, a read aloud or some round robin reading, right? You can have them use the Frayer model as a note-taking device, right? So you can read, and again, depending on the level of student, you could say, okay, look, this sentence that we just read, this paragraph, this is a really great example of the characteristics of a fulcrum. So go ahead, after we've now read it, go back and look and go ahead and list some of those characteristics, right? Obviously, you need to structure that so the students can experience success regardless of their level. All right, now the question is, when should I use the Frayer model, right? And obviously there is no, you should always use it at this time in your lesson, right? It's a versatile tool, right? So you can use it before a lesson, right? As an introduction to vocabulary. You can use it during a lesson to reinforce and deepen understanding of content, forgive me. And you can use it after a lesson for further collaboration to allow for an extension of academic discourse and writing, right? So you can use it at all times. I realize that seems like a really non-committal answer, but that doesn't mean it isn't true, okay? All right, I'm not going to read these to you. You can read. So I am going to give you a minute to look at these bullets, okay? And then what I would like is in the chat, or put your name in the chat, letting me know you want to share out. What are some ways that you, oh, you know what? I've done that. I've used a Frayer model for this. Or, you know, I do this in my class and I think the Frayer model would be a good extension and a good way to really stretch what I'm doing in this area. So read those bullets and then drop in the chat. What are some ways that you're using it similar to what's listed here so people can see that in a real context? Or if you're not using it, what are some ways you think that you could based on what you've read? All right. If you have any questions, please drop those in the chat. You have 1 minute to read those bullets and then go ahead and share out for me. Go. Got about 30 seconds. Please be dropping your thoughts in the chat. Ten seconds. And by the way, go ahead and read the chat because there's a lot of really great information being shared out. All right. So I love it. Marie says that she's already using it pretty extensively and that she's seen some pretty significant gains in learning of new vocabulary and retention, right? I had some suggestions for drawing pictures for word associations and labeling. I love the idea to use it as a vocabulary review, right? Because it's stuff they've already studied, right? And basically this gives them a way to encapsulate their learning and again, kids are going to remember stuff at different levels, right? And so if you group them strategically, right? Maybe one high kid, two medium kids, one low kid, they can help each other and they can each bring pieces to the table to remember more information, okay? Somebody liked the vocabulary wall, that was Stephanie. Now, Jana, you said for personal associations. Now, nowhere on the Frayer list does it say personal connection. Can you put that on there? Is that wrong? Because I didn't put it on mine and I'm the presenter, so it must be wrong, right? That must be like against the law, can't put it on there. No, right, you totally put it on there, right? You put whatever category you want, okay? If you want to put a category on there, you know, word to self connection, right? Word to world connection, that's great, okay? Oh, I love Elizabeth's, cut them into a puzzle and have kids mix their pieces and put them together. You know, I've done that, like putting articles together with like subheadings and things like that. And in 12 years in the classroom and 2 years as a specialist, I never thought about that. Thank you so much. That is fantastic. All right. You know what time it is? It's time to watch a quick video. Now, one of the keys, and if you've been in any of my sessions, you know that I am obsessed with sentence stems, whether oral or written. Chances are I've made you watch this video before. If so, I apologize. But if you've never been with me, the key to any vocabulary text is to have kids talk about it because if they can't talk about it, they can't write about it, right? Very rarely can someone write what they cannot say. So let's watch this quick video, and then let's talk about how we can pair sentence stems with Frayer models to allow students to have meaningful academic discourse. And again, I got to make sure I check that box. Okay, turns out once you check it once, you're good.
Sentence stems are a simple way to teach important information to students so that they can use it again in the future. It's a simple sentence structure where they can plug in important information and use it independently.
The number can be rounded to because it is closer to. Now, does that mean anything yet?
No.
What do we need to do to give it meaning?
Write some words.
We need to write some words or maybe some
Numbers.
numbers. That's right.
Sentence stems are a really simple structure for organizing knowledge. It's a way for students to understand concepts really simply in vocabulary that they understand.
Number 8.
The number 8. Andrea, you're next. The number 8 can be rounded to
10.
10. And tell me why, Kevin
Because it's
Rizzo.
closer.
Because it
It's closer
is closer.
to 10.
They have blank spots so they can plug in the information that they know, and that way they can use what they know as a framework to use in the future on their own. Sentence stems help writing because it's repetition and it helps reinforce a lot of just the mechanics of writing, punctuation, capitalization. Plus, it's another way for the kids to organize their thinking. Reading and writing go hand in hand, and it just reinforces everything that we need to teach the kids.
All right, so let me escape there real quick. So let's take a look at what it might look like if you were using sentence stems in conjunction with a Frayer model, okay? So just a quick word about sentence stems, okay? Now, in the moment, sometimes you can, okay, I need kids to be able to say something like this, so I'm gonna come up with this sentence stem. However, just like a pre-planned lesson is a more powerful and effective lesson, a pre-planned sentence stem usually is going to give you a little more bang for your buck. So you want a sentence stem that's going to allow students to discuss the essential question and or the lesson objectives, right? You want every time they talk, because there's not that many opportunities, you want it to tie back in, okay, what is it that I want students to know? And what do I want them to be able to show me when they're done with this lesson, right? So they should be talking about that in some concrete way. You want to include other critical vocabulary that is related to what it is that they're talking about. And you want to think about, okay, if they start off with this sentence stem, will they actually talk about what it is that I want them to talk about? Not, I realize sometimes it doesn't matter what sentence stem you put, right? Juanito and Pedro are going to talk about whatever they want, right? I understand that. Okay, but if the child is even remotely compliant, right? If they use your sentence stem, will it result in the language that you want and are looking for? So again, this is not an exhaustive list, right? But I might say, because again, we're not just doing one Frayer model in isolation, we're doing Frayer models on terms that are related in a specific topic, right? So the terms blank and blank are related because, okay, the terms blank and blank are opposites because the essential characteristics of the term blank include, right? That one is a little more straightforward, okay? But what it does is it helps the student make the connection that, oh, okay, these characteristics define this term, right? So it works as an outline for knowledge. Then you might say the picture or symbol or graphic represents the term, right? So let's say they draw something or they put something, you're like, why is that there? Well, they'll tell you why it's there. They'll tell you why it's representative, okay? And then The term blank is related to the topic blank because, by the way, this white thing is just part of the, it's part of the slide and it doesn't go away. So that's why there's a weird blank there. Okay, so again, if you like these stems, they will be provided to you in the presentation when I send it to you tomorrow. But you can write the stem that you desire, right? You can have the students talk about whatever it is that you want, right? But again, these stems are good orally if you model them, and they also allow the student to encapsulate their thinking in writing after they do some interaction with the Frayer model. Okay, now, I don't have a lot of time to talk about this whole thing, but, and again, if you've been with me, I love this activity. This activity is incredibly powerful. After you have done a lesson or a unit and you have a bunch of Frayer models, because basically those are your critical vocabulary, this activity of building block cards allows students to review and to summarize their learning, okay? So again, you can read this on your own time when I send it to you, but if you're thinking about the life cycle of a butterfly, right? So you have chosen metamorphosis, pupa, caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly. You then provide some transition and connecting words for kids. And this is ideal for English learners because you're providing the vast majority of the vocabulary they need to make sense of these key terms, okay? What you then want them to do is to write in 1, 2, 3 sentences or a brief paragraph how these words are connected, right? So for example, they might say a butterfly begins as a caterpillar and then a chrysalis forms. It is now called a pupa and then breaks out as a butterfly. This process is called metamorphosis, right? Metamorphosis is when a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. First, it is a caterpillar, then a pupa inside a chrysalis, and last a butterfly, right? So an activity like this, and if you're like, that sounds hard, how do I do that? If you write yourself a paragraph with the 5, 6 words that you want, you can then isolate the key words, you can isolate some of the connecting words, right? And then allow the students to put in the it is, the now, the this, the that. Do you see what I mean? So if you're thinking, how would I design this? Write a paragraph for yourself and then use that and go backwards. Does that make sense? Basically take out the key vocabulary, cut apart, the connection words, and then allow students to go from there. All right, we're gonna practice this right now. So, oh, you know what? All right, I'm gonna drop this into the chat. Hold on, I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. And again, if you have a QR code, you can do that. So go ahead and open this up. All right, it's in there now. I'm gonna share my screen again. All right, and when you get there, here's what it looks like. Now, I didn't know how many of our participants were gonna be here. I think we have 5 breakout rooms right now. Okay, so once you open it up, if it ever does, you're gonna go to the number slide that corresponds to your breakout room, okay? So if you're in breakout room 1, you'll go here. If you're in breakout room 2, you'll go here. If you don't remember, just wait until I open up the room. Choose one person, because if everyone types in here, it will lag too much. And what I want you to do is I want you to take connecting words, feel free to use your own, and you're going to make your own building blocks. So write Frayer models demonstrate the definition, right? You get it? You're good, right? Okay. So I'm going to give you 4 minutes for this. And what I want you to do is whoever types it, will you copy and paste it into the chat when you come back? Can I ask you to do that for me? If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to stop my share. Like I said, make sure you go into the room that corresponds with your the slide that corresponds with your breakout room, okay? Okay, I'm going to open all rooms. If you did not get an invitation, please let me know. Keisha, are you still not in a room? Did it kick you out again? You're muted, Keisha. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Keisha, I'm gonna assign you to room number 4, okay? Emilio, are you good? Do you need help or anything? All right, my friends, we are in the home stretch, so let's finish strong. All righty. So our last objective was to look at the Frayer model in a variety of subjects, right? There's a bunch of people teaching a bunch of different grade levels, a bunch of different content areas. And so I just want to take a quick look specifically at what it might look like in a specific subject, okay? And I've chosen an elementary TEK, a middle school TEK, and a high school TEK in 3 different subjects, okay? Okay, so this is by no means exhaustive, but hopefully it's broadly representative. Okay, so let's say we were teaching a 5th grade math TEK, right? It's 5.5 geometry and measurement, right? And basically the student is expected to classify two-dimensional figures, in a hierarchy of sets and subsets using graphic organizers based on their attributes and property. I did not provide every single 2D figure, right? But I provided triangles in a variety of them, a variety of quadrilaterals, and then 5, 6, 7, 8-sided, okay? So what might that look like, okay? So for example, I might use this at the beginning of this unit to assess prior knowledge, right? But also after I introduce some of the figures, right, to formatively assess what have my students understood. So I might say something like this. I want you to work collaboratively. Oh my goodness, I apologize. It was a long day and my work muscles are atrophied, so I'm having a hard time, but I'll get there. Work collaboratively with your group of 4 to complete Frayer models for the following polygons: triangle, quadrilateral, hexagon, pentagon, and octagon, right? So I might give one word to each of my groups, and then those groups report back, right? So each group is going to become an expert on one of those figures. They're then going to share with everyone else so that everyone is exposed to every word, but I can do it in a timely manner, okay? So I went ahead and put an example here for you. And then I might tell them, I want you to respond to this stem, right? Name your polygon. The triangle is similar to the quadrilateral in the following ways, right? So after they work on just one and hear about the others from the other groups, I now want them to make a comparison, okay? So that might be a good way to introduce it and to allow them to start to classify based on the hierarchy of attributes, okay? Now, let's say I'm teaching a 2nd grade language arts unit and I'm looking at TEK 2D, right? Point II here, and it's text features and graphics to locate and gain information, right? So I'm going to go over these nonfiction text features with my kiddos, and I'm going to now review key vocabulary, right, before I release them to work independently, and I'm also going to formatively assess. So I might tell them, work collaboratively with your partner to complete Frayer model for one of the following text features, right? So similarly, I'm going to assign this to different partners: diagram, timeline, index, glossary, pictures, captions, right? So here's an example. I like this because couldn't you see a 2nd grader doing this, right? I put a picture and then I put example, look up there, right? And then wouldn't it be gnarly if they give you a wolf with big muscles? And then I might have them to respond to this stem, okay? The diagram I found in today's text gave me the following information. Or one picture and caption I found in today's text gave me the following information, right? So now I can see, did they understand the text feature, but did they specifically understand the text that we looked at and how that text feature gives me information about that text, all right? So if I was teaching this is a physics TEK, it's 8.5, right? Describe the structure of atoms, including the masses, electrical charge, location of protons, neutrons, nucleus, all that good stuff, right? So I'm going to give them a Frayer model. I'm going to allow them to read, to do independent learning, and then I'm going to formatively assess, right? I'm going to have them complete Frayer models for all of these, and then I'm going to have them respond to this STEM orally and in writing. The relationship between the particles in an atom can be described in the following way, right? So they've now explored each of them individually, right? And through that exploration, they should have discovered the characteristics and the relation between them, and they should be able to sum up their learning pretty easily for me, okay? And again, this would be really easy for a native English speaker, right? Or an advanced high English speaker. But for someone that is relatively new to English, this will be challenging, and it will allow them to study content, but also to acquire language. All right. So we do have some time. This is gonna be quick, but here's what I want you to do. I'm gonna go back to Mathtique 5.5, right? So think about the 3 types of triangles: isosceles, scalene, equilateral. And I want you to do basically what I did. What would you use it for? Are you gonna do independent learning? Are you gonna review vocabulary? Are you gonna activate prior knowledge? Are you gonna do something else? Okay. Why are you gonna use the Frayer model? Okay. What are you gonna use it for? What type of Frayer model, what categories would you think would be most useful for students to look at the different types of triangles? Do you want them to work collaboratively or independently? And give me a sentence stem that you would have them respond to. So I'm going to drop the instructions and the TEEP into the chat. I'm going to put you back in your groups, and then we're almost done. All right. So I'm going to stop my share real quick. I'm going to drop these instructions. Maybe, if it will allow me to copy and there we go. All right, here are the instructions. You're going to probably want to copy and paste those so you have access to them when you go into your group. And then here is the standard as well. And remember, this is exactly like, I'm going to share my screen one more time just for a quick review. There we go. Here we go. This is just like what I did here to have them quantify and classify the different, sorry, it's lagging, the different quadrilaterals and polygons. Okay? All right. So I'm going to put you in your groups. You'll have 5 minutes. If you have any questions, please let me know. I realize that's very fast, but it's only an hour, so I'm doing what I can. It looks like everyone has been assigned this time. If you have not, please let me know. Keisha and Emilio, you guys okay? If you need me to assign you to a different one because you can't see the invitation or anything, please let me know, okay? Okay. All right, looks like everyone is back. So let's finish up. I do apologize. We don't have time to debrief because I promised I'd get you out of here on time, and I want to do that. So what I need you to do for me is it's time to vote. And like Mr. T says, I pity the fool who don't vote. So what I need you to do is I have a 3-question multiple choice survey. And this is so that I know how your learning went and how I can improve the learning for future participants. So if you would be kind enough to vote, you should be able to do that relatively quickly. There are 15 of y'all. So once all 15 have voted, I will close the polling. I will give you my contact information and you can go about your business. All right, thank you so much. 6 of you have voted. 9 have, woo, it's going. This is a lot faster than the Georgia recount, at least. All right, we're up to 11. We're doing good. There we go. That's everybody. Thank you so much. All right, I'm not going to share the results because let's be honest, you don't want to see them. If you do, I apologize. Okay. So you don't have to write any of the information down because I'm going to send it all to you tomorrow. But I do want you to be aware, we do have an English Learner Support Facebook page that you can join. We have a YouTube channel with a lot of resources. And then I also have a bilingual professional learning newsletter. It's bilingual because I am bilingual and do a lot of stuff with bilingual teachers, but the strategies are good for ESL, for anything with English learners, and it's in English. So if you want to follow that, you can join there. So we are done. If you want to stick around for questions or clarifications, please look for my email tomorrow. And then to get your credit, once I submit that to registration, you will get another email from Region 11, not from me, that will have a survey where you can rate me. And once you do that, your credit will be available in your Region 11 profile. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for your cooperation and your collaboration. I hope you and your family have a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, any other holiday you might celebrate. And like I said, I will stick around a few minutes if you have any questions, all right? Thank you so much, y'all. Feel free to hit that red leave meeting button at the bottom. And if you have any questions, drop it in the chat, unmute yourself, whatever you need, I'm here for you. If anyone celebrates Festivus, a Festivus for the rest of us.
Hey, I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I teach self-contained in an autism unit.
Okay.
And I've got this year 3 learners that have been identified as English language learners.
Okay.
And for 2 of them, they're still pretty much nonverbal. So it's kind of hard to, you know, guesstimate certain things, but the other one is pretty verbal. And so if we are doing like labeling or she's answering questions for me, and she responds in her native language, I just accept that. And then I might tell her like the other word. But if we were doing something like, I'm envisioning using this like in a small group. And so when that happens, I know especially like our whole pre-K population that we do a lot of kind of co-teach with are in there because they've qualified as English language learners. And so if they are using like giving us the words from their native language, is that something that's okay to include? And then just say like, you know, like George says this way and I say it this way, but we all still mean the same thing?
So here's what I would do. I think about sorry, I'm having a really hard time expressing
No, you're
myself.
good.
Think about language acquisition, right? First, you develop receptive language, right? So you can understand, right? Then you develop some productive language, and there's some people develop, like older, you know, folks like us that we are literate, right? We tend to be able to write before we can speak, right? But then, because really the hardest modality is speaking, it is, because you have to immediately take in the language, translate it, think about how you're going to respond, and you do that usually in your first language, and then spit it out. It's a lot of moving parts, right? So the way that I have done it, and again, I've never had an English learner that was autistic, right? But how I do it with my newcomers, which I always had, oh, here's little Johnny from Venezuela who doesn't speak a lick of English, right?
Right.
And now we're in the English part of our block, and I'll sometimes translate, you know, he can have peer support, but I need him to develop English, and I don't want to stunt everyone else's. So I'll say, okay, boys and girls, what are the attributes of this triangle, right? And little Johnny, oh, tiene 3 lados, right? And I'm like, and so I will acknowledge what he says, right? And if I can say in Spanish to him, muy bien, tiene 3 lados, right? Really good. But what I'll always do is I will repeat it in English. Okay. He's absolutely right. This triangle has 3 sides. Jorge, how many sides does it have, right? And I want to give him an opportunity, or her, or, you know, to use some English, right? But I want to restate exactly what they said. I want to affirm it, but I want to restate it so they hear it correctly. Now you're not going to constantly have the kid repeat it, right?
Right.
But whenever you can have them repeat it, right? Even if they can't say 3 sides, even they say 3 what? How many sides? Or you see what I mean? So yes, affirm what they say, honor their receptive language, right? but always give them the opportunity to hear it correctly, and if at all possible, to say it, not correctly, but to say it
Right.
in the L2.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
One more play.
Absolutely.
The other thing, and because you said you're in there with the littles of the pre-Ks, right?
Yeah.
So what people don't, because a lot of times it kills me, teachers never, not true. Very often teachers do not require kids to speak in complete sentences, and you're missing a golden opportunity, right? So you have a little 3-year-old baby, right? 4-year-old, and they're little, right? A lot of them are still struggling with sentences, right? And so I let them say what they want. And then I say, wow, that's so great. Can you say that in a complete sentence?
Yeah.
If they don't know how, I say it and I have them repeat it. And I have them repeat it as best they can. And then
Yeah.
I don't like, that's not a complete,
Right.
no, I'm not going to jump on the kid, right? But I encourage them to use complete sentences, because if they can't say it, they can't write it, they can't read it, they can't.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much.
That may have been more than you wanted.
No, that was perfect. That was, I mean, because my whole room is to facilitate language development. And I know it's a little bit different because we have autism, but at the same time, like, my big thing is the higher the expectations we have, the more they're going to learn. As soon as we start accepting one word instead of 3, they're going to do that all the time. And so that's like my big thing with my paras is we always model, and then give them the opportunity to practice. And it's just lots and lots of repetition. But I just wasn't sure, coming from like the ESL side is more new to me than the SPED side. And so I'm like, I don't want to create more confusion, but I also know that as they continue in education, what they're primarily gonna hear is the English version. So they've got to learn it somehow.
So with your paras, what I would recommend, because I used to do this with, again, the pre-K and K teachers sometimes have an aid, right?
Yeah.
Is affirm, use and model correctly, but the only way to get it out of kids is to ask them questions, right?
Yeah.
And again, just like basically a question becomes a sentence stem, right? You're providing them a blank to fill in. And then so how many sides does it have? And they might say 3. Oh, it has 3 sides. Can you say that? It has 3 sides. See what I mean? And
Yes.
you don't want to do that all the time, because
Right.
that's frustrating to kids. But if it's a key concept that you really need them to know, this is the learning objective, that's where you want to really emphasize and try to get that out of them as much as possible.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And listen, I'm going to send you'll have my email and stuff. I always tell teachers this, my job is to make your job as easy as possible. So if you have questions, you need resources, you need sentence stems, email me. I will help you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, you have a happy holiday. Bye,
You
bud.
too. Say bye.
You're a good man. How old are you? Like 9?
8 and 6.
Oh, hello, my friend.
Hi.
All right, well, you guys be nice to your mom, okay?
Okay. We will.
Yes.
Listen to her.
No.
You know, the best present you can give your mom is to do what she tells you.
Okay. Or just let her have a long day in bed.
That would be nice too.
That helps too.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye.
Bye.